going on YouTube? It is Repulse back in another video. In today's video, we have a very early day Chelsea news video. There wasn't a lot yesterday, but I think it built up enough with, everything that went on this morning to make a video out of it. So, yeah, you get a very early morning video today, and then maybe one later on today if there's more news that breaks, or a different type of video that I could make. Yeah, we'll see, but there is enough to make a news video, so let's just dive in because there's stuff that we do need to get into. To begin, starting off with Morgan Rogers. Obviously we've heard about the Nicholas Jackson Morgan Rogers potential swaps. Obviously Villa are very interested in Nicholas Jackson. Nicholas Jackson played under Unai Emery at Villarreal. It's unclear what Chelsea's true price tag on Nicholas Jackson is. Obviously we said £100 million, but I think we would cave in for a lot less. I think that's just a negotiation tactic. Start high and then gradually bring yourself down as time goes on. And if Chelsea get a bid for like 70 million for him, then I bet they'd be snapping at the bit for that. So yeah, it said on Nicholas Jackson, obviously Morgan Rogers is expected to be around £80 million. So maybe there's just 80 million going one way, 80 million going the other way. But Ben Jacobs said yesterday on Alex Goldberg's podcast, I don't know if anyone was on there, but he said that Morgan Rogers is a dream target for Chelsea, but he's not aware of a way of Chelsea signing him at the moment, meaning it's not really feasible, not really possible. He said even perhaps with Nicholas Jackson being a target for Aston Villa, Villa have an untouchable tag over Rogers. So basically saying that this deal is unlikely to happen unless there's some magical breakthrough somewhere. Maybe if there's a swap deal, but even then, it might not even work out to get Morgan Rogers to Chelsea because Villa rate him that highly, and they believe that they can't sell him, which I think is completely fair. He's a young, exciting talent, with the world at his feet. But I do think if he does have ambition, he's going to want to move to Chelsea, going to want to try to win trophies, and I don't think Villa's really the spot for him to do that. Yes, I think they win the Europa League next season. I'm in firm belief of that, actually. I do think they're probably the favorites for the Europa League. But I do think that, Morgan Rogers should be a Chelsea target. I think he should be a Chelsea player by the end of the window. That's how much I like the player. But obviously, if it's untouchable on Villa's side, then, it's very difficult for Chelsea to do business and, can't really fault them for not bringing him through the door. But if Jackson does go to Villa, I think that should be a heavy part of the negotiation. Obviously, it's not going to be straight up swap deal. It's going to be one of those PSR deals because obviously Villa need to raise money. We probably want to balance the books out too. So if Jackson does end up going to Villa, Morgan Rogers may not even come the other way, but I do think it's something Chelsea should really try to do because I do love the player. I do think he's someone that would really fit for what Chelsea's trying to do with all the versatility. And I'm glad that he's a dream target, but I do hope that there's a breakthrough and a way that Chelsea can actually bring him through the door and kind of take that untouchable tag off of him that Villa have placed on him for this transfer window. A little bit more on Morgan Rogers. Football London, it's a source that's pretty reliable in terms of Chelsea, Tottenham, and Arsenal news. It's basically focused around those three main clubs in London. Yeah, pretty reliable when it comes to the three of those, but said Aston Villa are reportedly willing to do business if a fee of at least £80 million for Morgan Rogers arrives their way as they look to put themselves in a stronger position PSR wise. We know that Villa needs to sell. I think they're either at risk or actually below. I don't remember. It's them and Burnley that are the two that I don't really remember. But yeah, they need to sell. They desperately need to sell by I guess it was the June 30th deadline, so they must have made it. But they need to sell for this next PSR deadline. So obviously they might have to just end up moving on from Morgan Rogers to strengthen their PSR. Which lays into Chelsea's hands very well. So yeah, I do think if we propose a fee that they're pretty much unable to say no to, then Morgan Rogers will end up packing his bags and moving to Stamford Bridge. But at the same time, if they have an untouchable tag, they may be looking to move on from Ollie Watkins, or not Tielemans, but players like that, or even smaller names like Matty Cash. They definitely could move on from instead of Morgan Rogers if they believe that he's that vital to their project. But yeah, I do want Chelsea to go in for Morgan Rogers. I think, we see him as our dream target, the player that we want to bring in the most. It's just how feasible is that? We don't really know. But apparently, if we bid 80 million pounds or more, then there's a possibility. So, I expect us to, explore it a little bit, just, open talks with Villa about the player. And, if it progresses, it progresses. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And we change to, different targets, which we will talk about later in this video. But on potential outgoings, Alfie Gilchrist is attracting interest from Saudi Arabia. He's also attracting interest from the Championship, which is where I expect him to move. But apparently, Saudi Arabia sees him as a practical profile for what they're trying to build. Obviously, he's a young talent, has a decent amount of potential. I wouldn't say the most, but you know what you're getting when Alfie Gilchrist comes through the door, and that's a serious mentality with someone who's always going to give it all, always going to give it his all for wherever he goes off to. Um, and right now he's attracting interest from Saudi Arabia. He only has, I think a year and a half or 12 months left on his deal. So I expect him to, leave sometime soon for, I don't know what fee, but obviously it's full profit if he does end up leaving because he's from Column. Um, but I expect him to go off to the championship to like a mid-table championship side like a Middlesbrough or a higher tier championship side like a Sheffield United can come back in for him. Obviously, he was on loan there last season, but yeah, it seems like Alfie Gilchrist is out the door at some point in the summer, which I'll be happy with the outgoing of him just because it's pure profit on the books. Really helps us with that net spend, and I don't really think he has a future here. Obviously, it looked bright under Pochettino, but it doesn't seem like Maresca really rates him, and I don't think he's really a ball playing center half. That obviously we play a lot with these center halves on the ball. So, yeah, just don't think he really suits Maresca's system. So I expect him to go out the door. And any money we make's good money just because it's pure profit. But also thanks to Alfie Gilchrist for being a servant of this club for many years through Column, even in 23-24. Yeah, he looked bright. Obviously, won Young Player of the Year with us. But now it seems like he is off to another club. So yeah, that's that on Alfie Gilchrist. Other than that, our potential outgoings. The Athletics said that more arrivals could be made, but obviously dependent on player departures, which is the main focus for the time being. And Chelsea have a number of squad members who are not a part of their long-term plans and are also looking to go elsewhere. Those on the list include Raheem Sterling, which you already knew. This is pretty much the bomb squad. Ben Chilwell, Joao Felix, Renato Vega, Armando Broja, Leslie Ugochukwu, and Axel Disasi. The only one that's, a little controversial, I think, is Leslie Ugochukwu. Obviously looked good when he played for us, but, obviously went out on loan to Southampton last season. But just because we have a loaded midfield, I think that's why we're moving on from him. But I do think, he is a tidy midfielder. I think he will be good if he moves on and goes somewhere else. But, Raheem Sterling, we've been looking to move on for a while. I don't know if he moves. Obviously, he's on £325,000 a week, so he's just raking in cash by just being here at the club. Ben Chilwell also on near £200,000 a week, so he's also just raking in money by being at the club. Joao Felix, I think, is going to go off to Benfica. It's just whether or not they can really bid the amount that Chelsea are in search of from them. Renato Vega, I think, is going to go off to Bayern Munich for about 30 million. Good player, young player, exciting talent. I think has loads of potential to be one of the best center halves in the world moving forward. But just burnt bridges at the club, so I don't expect him to really come back. Asked to go out on loan to be a center half at Juve, and is just going to demand more playing time than he warrants over Colwell. So don't expect him to really come back into the fold, but I wouldn't be mad at it because I do think he's an exceptional player with exceptional potential. Armando Broja, we knew we're looking to move on from him. Was on loan at Fulham. We got 4 million for him then, and then also went out on loan to Everton last season. But I don't know of any interest coming in for him this summer on a permanent deal. Leslie Ugochukwu had I think Villarreal was in for him. And then also more European interest. I do expect Chelsea to sell for similar to what we got in for him, but obviously a profit on the books because he's been here. His deal has been amortized, so we're only paying a certain amount in terms of the books. of what we brought in for him, and I think we're going to get around 25 million pounds for him, which is, good business for Leslie Ugochukwu. And then Axel Disasi, who apparently has interest from Newcastle. I'm not too certain on that or know if that's too reliable, but I did hear that Newcastle are weighing up whether or not to bring him in for around 35 million pounds, which would be great business. I expect Villa to come back in for Disasi as well. I'm surprised they haven't. Other than that, I expect some, mid-table prem sides to come in for Axel Disasi, and we are able to let him go for around what we got him for 35 million pounds or such. But yeah, that is the bomb squad who are potentially leaving, and most of them will leave by the end of this summer. Other than that, we have potential replacements. If Chelsea do sell Jackson and Nkunku, which we're linked to do. Obviously, Jackson can move off to Villa, can move off to Man U, or AC Milan if they do end up having the funds to buy him. And then Nkunku seems like he might be off to Bayern Munich alongside Renato Vega. But in the case if both of them get sold, then you can see Chelsea pivot to someone like Benjamin Sesko, which is interesting, even though we ruled him out before, because they feel like they may need to out and out proper nines. So Benjamin Sesko has been, a long-term target for Chelsea. We've had long-term admiration for him, but we've never brought him through the door. And the links with him, pretty much died down once Liam Delap came in, because obviously Liam Delap's a proper number 9, and then Maresca sees Nicholas Jackson as a proper number 9. But if Jackson leaves the club, that means we only have one proper 9, and then we have João Pedro, who's one of those versatile attackers, not a true number 9, but I expect him to be used in that number 9 position the most next season. But in the case that Jackson does leave, we're left with only one true number 9 in Liam Delap, obviously. So I think that could warrant us going in for Benjamin Sesko or another striker in this window, just to get that 2 proper number 9s that Maresca's in search of, because we do have a lot of competitions, and if Gittins gets hurt, that means João Pedro's not playing up top, he's playing on the left wing. Or if Palmer gets hurt, that means João Pedro's not playing up top and he's playing in the number 10. Stuff like that you got to take into consideration. So you need all the squad depth in the world, and these are 2 very viable depth options in Nicholas Jackson and Christopher Nkunku. So if they do leave, then I think Benjamin Sesko is a rightful target, because he's someone that can start for you at the number 9 position. But then again, if you have João Pedro, he doesn't have the pressure to walk in, be Chelsea starting number 9, and deliver immediately. I understand the fee is going to be very hefty, but he's still a developmental player, he's still a very raw striker. So I think going to Chelsea would be very good for him, because he's not just thrown into the deep end. You still have João Pedro, who can help him acclimate. You can still have Liam Delap, who's going to help Šeško acclimate. And then obviously when Šeško's off and running and starting to fire, then that's when you start putting him into the mold. And then obviously we have one of the most or one of the highest potential number 9s in the world if he is to come through the door. I do like Šeško as a player, but I wouldn't pay the fee that Leipzig are asking for him. So we'll see if that value decreases throughout the summer transfer window, and if Nicholas Jackson and Nkunku do leave, which would mean that Šeško is a potential target for us. Other than that, we have the remaining Chelsea targets, being Man United's unnamed player, Aston Villa's Morgan Rogers, who I absolutely love, you already know this, and then Ajax Joel Hato, which there's news on him, which is about to be shown to y'all, but I do love the player. Obviously, a left center back or a left back can play either. I think if we're doing what we did against PSG, where it was kind of Reece James taking a right wing back midfielder position, and then Gusto at that right center half where he could bomb up and down, Gusto taking that right wing back position where he could bomb up and down. Reece James taking that midfield / right center half position. And then obviously you have Cucurella and Colwill. I think, Hato would be perfect in that Cucurella role. Obviously excels in that left center back position, can carry the ball very well for a center half. Attacks well like Cucurella, but can also defend like Colwill at the same time. Obviously not to the extent that both of them do, but he has the qualities to do both of those. So I think he could be a very viable left back option. Could start in games where Cucurella needs a rest. Even in the Premier League, I trust him enough with what I've seen from him. Obviously has played a ton of football. Ajax's Young Player of the Year multiple times. Eredivisie's Young Player of the Year multiple times, I think. Um, so yeah, he definitely has a CV brought up. I would love him as a left back option. I would love him as a left center half option, to move Colwell to that center half position. Um, so yeah, Hato's someone I'm very excited about. I know I didn't really stretch on him too much last video, but yeah, he's someone I'm very excited about. He's a profile that I really like. I know people are saying they want a true left back, but I think Hato could be a true left back as well as, you know, being a left center half backup or even starter if he develops that well. Because obviously we know Colwell may end up being a center half. So that may leave that position up to Jarrell Hato or Badia Chile, dependent on Towson's fitness, Fofana's fitness, or I guess Fofana's fitness more than Towson's fitness, but Towson's consistency, Chalaba's consistency, who I expect to start next season. But yes, Jarrell Hato is someone I definitely want to bring in, and we do have info on his price tag, which will be shown to y'all in a little bit. But we have to talk about this unnamed player. Um, Again, Ben Jacobs talks about the potential sellings of Jackson Nkunku and says if Man U approach Chelsea over Jackson Nkunku, he does believe that Chelsea would bring up Garnacho to at least see if there's value in adding him to the squad. Um, yeah, if we bring it up, I hope we realize that there is no value in adding him. Obviously not a player I'm too fond of. If you do, watch my videos, I do not like Garnacho as a player. I usually say unknown player, just hoping that the links go away, but the links seem to never die. Obviously, if he comes through the door, I'm gonna back him. I'm gonna support him the day he walks through the door. I'm never gonna not support a Chelsea player. But in the meantime, I definitely don't want him coming through the door. I don't think he's dynamic enough off that wing. But to his grace, obviously Manchester United is essentially a graveyard right now, where players' careers just go to die. Obviously, Chelsea used to have that reputation, but now I think it's definitely handed over to Manchester United. So maybe there's a player in Garnacho, we just aren't able to see it because obviously he's off at Man United. But yeah, definitely not someone I'd want to bring in as of now. But I guess if you want attacking depth and you do lose Jackson or Nkunku, you could bring him through the door, as long as the fee isn't substantial that you're paying to Man United, because I know they're asking for like 60 or 70 million, which I don't think I would ever pay 10 more, get Morgan Rogers through the door, and um, really just shut down that Garnacho link, or pay for this player, or yeah, this player. Sorry, Jarrell Hato. You can just use the 40 million that you get for Nkunku to going for Hato. And Ben Jacobs says that 40 million could be possible, and Chelsea have made fresh contact. The Ajax right now are asking for something like 60 million pounds, but I expect that just to drop through negotiations. I think we'll meet somewhere for like 45 and 5. I think that's what's going to end up happening, or 40 plus 5. I expect the package to be around the 40 million pound mark rather than the 60. I think Chelsea can negotiate that down pretty well. And Hato, I talked about him a lot this video. Definitely someone I like to bring through the door. Definitely need Cucurella depth, and I think he's perfect for that. But I think he can also start a multitude of games at that center half position as well. So yeah, 40 million for a potential starter next year and a very exciting young talent is something that I definitely do. 60 million, I don't know. A little on the fence about that. Obviously, does have the talent to warrant him being a 60 million pound player, as well as the youth. So I can see what Ajax are looking for definitely in this negotiation, because obviously has the CV to back up. Performance in 60 million, has played in the Champions League, has played in the Europa League, been a starter for Ajax since the age of 17. So Hato's definitely a highly regarded youth talent, and I'm glad that Chelsea are in for him. Seems like we have a pretty fresh road for him. I know Liverpool are interested, but at the same time, I don't expect them to go in for him with the amount they're spending in the summer window. So yeah, I think Chelsea pretty much have a lone road. So maybe we get him for around the 40 plus 5 or something like that. But definitely someone I want to bring into the door. Another potential incoming is actually Xavi Simmons. Yeah, this was broken 2 hours ago and actually caught me by surprise, but Xavi Simmons apparently prefers a move to the Premier League this summer and has brought in super agent Ali Barat to help him. Barat is expected to approach Chelsea and more English clubs, so we don't know the price tag on Xavi Simmons. We just know that obviously there's interest from the Premier League, and Chelsea might be one of those clubs. Obviously, a very versatile attacker. So if you're between him and Garnacho, I'd rather Xavi Simmons all day of the week. If you're between Simmons and Rogers, I definitely want Rogers, but at the same time, if Simmons is only 50 million and Rogers is 85, 90, I'm taking Simmons all day of the week. I don't think we should pay that 40 million extra. I think, at that point, you're just like, hey, this is a very similar option. Obviously, Rogers might be a tad bit of a better player, but Xavi Simmons is a great finisher, also very versatile. Someone, I'd be happy to bring through the door. Definitely has levels. Um, Good CV too. But yeah, he prefers a move to the Premier League this summer apparently, and Chelsea are one of those teams on the list. And I'd be very happy if he comes through the door. Good player, very tidy with the ball at his feet. Can play the left wing, can play the right wing, can play false nine if you really need him to. I think he's best in the 10 or that left wing spot though. So provides good depth for us if we do bring him through the door. And I think someone that can play games next season if we do bring him through the door. I think he can. You could even see him play. Uh, in Enzo's box to box role if you really need him to. He's capable of doing it. Obviously, just not the best in terms of defensive duties, but let's say Enzo needs a rest one game, you could always do that. Or if we're playing like a AK Athens in the Champions League, and you just want to rest a couple players, then you can put Simmons in there with like a Lavia, a Sugo midfield. So you give Palmer a rest, you give Fernandez and Caicedo a rest, or um, you put him on that left wing to give Gittins a rest, or up top to give Pedro or Delap a rest. But yeah, Simmons is definitely an intriguing target for us, and I don't think the fee would be too substantial. Obviously, Leipzig are very tough negotiators. It seems like everyone in the Bundesliga is, but definitely someone that I hope Chelsea go in for if the price tag is not too much, because he does fit the mold of a very versatile attacker, and I do think he's a very good player at that. Obviously looks very good at every international break for the Netherlands too. But yeah, that is that on Xavi Simmons, and that is all the news that has broke so far today. So there may be a second news video out later today, or just a video talking about either Xavi Simmons, Joel Hato, or one of the Chelsea targets. But yeah, that is all. If you did enjoy this video, please be sure to like and subscribe. My Discord is going to be down in the description if you want to join. Have only a couple members right now, but if you do want to talk football or NFL or anything like that, you can just join. And I'm pretty active on there. If anyone talks on there, I'm probably one of the first to respond. So yeah, if you want to get a hold of me, you can just join that Discord down in the description. Other than that, if you did enjoy this video, again, please be sure to like and subscribe. And as always, it's Repulse, and I'm out. Peace. Okay, well, as I was editing this video, this news actually just broke. Chelsea and Arsenal are among the clubs attentive to Xavi Simmons' situation this summer. He's prepared to leave Leipzig as revealed since May, and Premier League top clubs are informed. No bids or talks yet, but it kind of just solidifies what I was talking about in the video, that I expect Chelsea to be interested. I expect Chelsea to come in for him if the price tag is obviously feasible, and not as much as Morgan Rogers, which I don't expect it to be. And I think him and Gittins being on that left-hand side would be an absolutely disgusting combination. So yeah, really happy to see really happy to see Chelsea linked to him. Obviously we're gonna rival Arsenal, but I expect them to choose us over Arsenal every day of the week. But yeah, it's pretty funny that I was just editing this video. I just finished talking about Xavi Simmons, and then news broke on him. But yeah, Chelsea are attentive to his situation. We are now interested in Xavi Simmons. We have registered interest. And I do expect us to go in for him sometime this summer. But yeah, now that is everything. Sorry for this quick little interruption, but yeah, if you did enjoy this video, again, please be sure to like and subscribe. And as always, it's Repulse, and I'm out. See y'all again. Peace.